Hi dear students, today we will learn about the computer applications in business. This is for the program BCom, that is Bachelor of Commerce, for the 5th semester, comes under the Karnataka Institute Award, and the session number is 18th. So the learning objectives of this session will be containing the symbols used in ER diagram, that is entity relationship diagram, generalization and specialization techniques, example of ER diagram, outcomes. The application of ER diagram to real life problem. So participation constraints. In the participation constraints, we have the two types of participation. One is total participation, another one is partial participation. In the total participation, each entity is involved in the relationship. The total participation is represented by the double lines. Let us say the entity that we are going to maintain the relationship in between the two entities, both the entities are participated fully, and such a type of participation is called as a total participation. Another participation is called as a partial participation. Not all entities are involved in the relationship. Partial participation is represented by the single line. So such a type of entities are called as a partial participation. So you can see in the figure or the diagram that in between the two entities there is a relationship. That relationship is established with respect to the diamond symbol, and the relationship between the relationship and the entity will be represented by total, is represented by double lines, and the partial participation is represented by single line. Entity, set and keys. A key is an attribute or a collection of attributes that uniquely identifies an entity among the entity set, is called as a key. So keys are used to identify the tuples which are present in the table uniquely. For example, the roll number of a student make him or her identifiable among the several students which are available in the database. Super key. A set of attributes, one or more, that collectively identifies an entity in an entity set is called as a super key. That means a set of attributes, one or more, that are collectively identifies. We come across a situation where in the database we require two or more keys are combined together to identify the tuples uniquely. Then we come across the super key. Candidate key. A minimal super key is called as a candidate key. An entity set may have more than one candidate key. Primary key. Primary key is the key which is used to identify the tuples uniquely in the given table or in the given database, and such keys are called as primary keys. One of the unique feature of primary key is that the value whatever the key contains should be unique and it should not be null. Then generalization. Here in this diagram you can see the pigeon, sparrow and the dove. These are the types of birds. All these features will have the common properties, that is flying. The birds will fly, is it right? So the birds is the common these are all comes under the common word called as birds. So the common property of all the pigeon, sparrow and dove are fly. This is called as generalization. Specialization. A person. A person is an entity. That person, either it may be a student or teacher. Okay, if that person goes for a college, then he is studying some subject, then obviously he is a teacher. A person who is going for the college, who is going for a college to learn, then he is a student. So this come across the special. So inheritance. In this diagram, you can view that a person is an entity because it is represented in the rectangle, and that person is having several attributes such as name, age, gender. The name will represent the name of the person, the age will represent the age of the person, and the gender will represent the gender of the person. Clear? Now the person is a student. Student is an entity and teacher is an entity because the entities are represented by the rectangles. So when the student is having attribute, that is roll number. Student ಗೆ attribute ಯಾವುದು? Roll number. Then teacher is having the attribute that is employee ID. So the attributes for the entities are represented by the oval shaped symbols. Is it clear? Okay. So inheritance here, the person who is going to college for learning, then he is a student. The person who is going for a college to teach, then is a teacher. This is how we can able to make utilization of inheritance. The same name will come across for student, the same age will come across for student, as well as gender. Similarly for the teacher also, name of the teacher, age of the teacher, gender of the teacher will come across. This is how we can able to inherit the properties of the symbols used in the error diagram. The rectangle symbol is used for entity, the oval symbol is used for attribute, the diamond symbol is used for relationship. ನಾವು ಎಂಟಿಟಿಗಳ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ರಿಲೇಷನ್ಶಿಪ್ಪನ್ನು ಎಸ್ಟಾಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಆ ರಿಲೇಷನ್ಶಿಪ್ಪನ್ನು ಎಸ್ಟಾಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡುವ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ we are using the straight lines, and it is used for linking the two different entities. Among them, it is also used to represent the relationship sets also. Represents multi-valued attributes. So to a double oval shaped symbol ittu antandre, it is used for multi-valued attributes ಗೆ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. And dotted attributes or dashed attributes, it is used for derived attributes. If the double lines are used, then it is called as a total participation of that particular entity. If the single line is used, then it is called as a partial participation of entity in that relationship. If there are two rectangle symbols are there, then it is called as a weak entity. If there are two diamond shaped symbols are there, then it is called as a weak relationships. And beside that, we are having represent the composite attributes. In the composite attributes, two simple attributes are combined together to form a one composite attributes. Okay, so any attribute which is underlined, then that particular attribute is called as the key attribute. So that is called as the key attribute. Now we come across the example of the bank ER diagram. In the bank ER diagram, we have the bank is the entity, branch is the entity, loan is the entity, account is the entity, and the customer is the entity. So the bank has the several properties: name of the bank, code, address. So the bank code is the key attribute. In the branch, we are having branch ID, branch name, branch address. Branch ID is the key attribute, that is why it is underlined. And in the account information, account entity, we are having account number, account type, and balance. The account number is the key attribute. In the loan entity, we are having loan ID, loan type, and amount. Loan type and loan ID both are going to act as the key attributes. And in the customer, we are having the customer ID, name, phone, and address. Customer ID is the key attribute. So the bank is related to branch, represented by as is the relationship in between them, and n number of banks are related to n number of branches. Clear? And branches offers, one branch offers n number of loans. Similarly, one branch maintain n number of accounts. And customer avail n number of customer avail m number of loans. One number of customer can able to avail many number of loans, such as gold loan, vehicle loan, home loan. Like that way, one customer can able to have a many number of loans. Similarly, there are n number of customers are there in the bank, so they are going to avail n number of loans. The n number of customers can hold many number of accounts, such as one customer can hold the savings account and another account called as deposit account and current account. So likewise, one single customer can able to hold many number of accounts. So that's all about the ER diagram. It's another example of a library ER diagram for library management system. Here the entities are books, publisher, member, and book, publisher, and member. The books are having the attributes available, price, title, book ID, author. Among these, the key attribute is book ID because it is underlined. In the publisher ID, address, name. Publisher ID is the key attribute. Member entity, expiry date, name, address, member type, member date, and member ID. Member ID is the key attribute. And the relationship are published by, borrow by. And that is how we are going to maintain the relationship in between the different entities, that by connecting the lines in between them. and for that particular relationships we have to mention the value, the name of the relationship. Published by is the name of the relationship in between the book and the publisher, and the borrowed by is the relationship that is being established in between the book and the member. So that is all about the ERA diagram. Student ERA diagram. Here there are three attributes are there. One is student, another one is exam, another one is record card. In the student we are having several attributes such as first name, first name, last name. So it is a composite attribute. Student ID is the key attribute. Phone, DOB, address number, city, street, and sit for is the relationship that will interconnect to the another entity called exam number, subject, student ID. So exam will have the record, and that record card will have record number, subject, name, and score. So a record is the relationship in between the exam and the record. So that is all about the student ER diagram. And this is the example for the employee ER diagram. In the employee ER diagram we are having the employee entity, leave entity, salary entity, and the class entity. Likewise we are having the relationship that is have, as, have. And the type of relationship is also maintained by 1 to m, 1 to m, and 1 to 1. So this is how the employee ER diagram also been established. The questions from this session. You might able to expect a 5 marks questions in the sessions such as explain the entity set, explain the generalization, explain the specialization. In the 10 marks segment questions, you may have to briefly explain the bank ER diagram, briefly explain the library ER diagram, briefly explain the student ER diagram. So further information you can also reference these reference books and online sources which are freely available on the internet. You can refer for this. Thank you.